Leo's insights are presented to challenge, inform, and encourage you in your quest to break free from school-based approaches to education. Building upon a foundation of unschooling, we sincerely hope these insights help you to consider how education can be truly unlimited.
What do attention deficit disorder, dyscalculia, dysgraphia, and dyspraxia have in common? Besides the fact that they are all complicated words that start with D and are rather hard to pronounce, they are examples of the many learning disabilities listed in websites specializing on this subject. As a bona fide dyslexic, another D word, who has been involved for over 40 years in the education industry, I can say that I have had lots of experience with this topic. I can also honestly state that I have great reservations about how we see and how we manage learning disabilities. Let's start by looking at how the dictionary defines learning disability. Learning disabilities are neurologically based processing problems. These processing problems can interfere with learning basic skills such as reading, writing, and/or math. They can also interfere with higher level skills such as organization, time planning, abstract reasoning, long and short memory, and attention span. Another definition is a learning disability is a condition giving rise to difficulties in acquiring knowledge and skills to the level expected of those of the same age, especially when not associated with a physical handicap. Wikipedia further defines it this way. Learning disability is a classification that includes several areas of functioning in which a person has difficulty learning in a typical manner, usually caused by an unknown factor or factors. Given the difficulty learning in a typical manner, this does not exclude the ability to learn in a different manner. Therefore, some people can be more accurately described as having a learning difference, thus avoiding any misconception of being disabled with a lack of ability to learn and possible negative stereotyping. Even though this last definition correctly separates learning disabilities from learning differences, let us group all learning disabilities, difficulties, disadvantages, dysfunctions, deficiencies, and differences collectively as learning challenges for the sake of simplification in this article. Now, in order to get a clear understanding of anything, one must understand the foundational premise upon which it is based. Perhaps an example is in order here. If someone says that a child is tall, that statement's meaning is entirely dependent on the perspective or foundational premise of the person making it. If the person making this statement is short, for instance, the statement means something quite different from what a tall person would perceive. Different perspectives therefore result in different perceptions and consequent expectations of others, including children. Similarly, any assessment respecting learning challenge is always founded on inherent perspectives and assumptions. I believe that there are three main premises upon which learning challenges are determined, which must be considered when seeking to understand them. The first is based on the fact that God don't make no junk. Those believing that there is a God and that he makes no mistakes would surely know that there are individuals with greater and lesser attributes, but at the same time would understand that it is better to help one cope with rather than fix learning issues. On the other hand, believing that we are all a product of some evolutionary process, we would have a greater tendency to think that the individual is flawed and in need of repair. The second assumption is based on the premise that there is such a thing as a standard by which to measure students of a particular age. Using this manner of thinking, any child not reading by age 6, for example, is likely in need of remediation, and should this continue after puberty, the child is deemed deficient. Little consideration is given for variations within the human population. Conformity is expected and advanced over diversity. The third and likely biggest assumption made respecting learning challenges is how the children are actually challenged. That is, are they actually challenged by inherent issues or external ones? This is where my experience kicks in. By the evolutionary standard, I am both outstanding and a failure. Compared to others, I'm definitely my own person, paddling my own canoe in a stream all by myself. It used to bother me that I wasn't like everybody else. Now I celebrate the fact that God made me unique and expects me to make a difference by being different. This is much easier than trying to meet some external, non-existent standard or expectation. I am indeed challenged by this third foundational assumption. By any measure used to determine learning challenges, I would most certainly collect a few titles describing my many issues using special coding, but only within a school environment. My collective learning challenges may have disabled or disadvantaged me by preventing me from fitting within the school's mold. But then more importantly, it's what made me unique. By not fitting neatly into one of the school's categories, students are labeled as having learning disabilities, and children who do not fit the school's mold are discouraged with or penalized with disparaging labels. However, do children really have learning disabilities, or do they have school disabilities? This is a very important question to consider. You may find your child is fine just as he or she is without need to ascribe some meaningless school-based title for his or her learning challenges. This is not to disparage genuine learning issues, but to state that outside of the typical school environment, many of the learning challenges are not really challenges, but rather differences. I want to end by referring to a news story I read the day after writing this article, which accurately describes my teaching experience with learning disabilities. In it, a teacher was quoted as saying, "An increasing number of kids are facing learning disabilities," and she made this statement in support of her demands for more funding. Question is, has the human race changed or devolved such that more and more children are now having learning issues? Or could it be that the increasing number of children failing is more indicative of increasing school failure? Perhaps it would be more accurate to connect the increasing numbers of learning disabilities with increasingly questionable and challenging societal norms being taught in school. Maybe it is simply a matter of increasing number of learning disabilities directly correlating with increasing funding levels. I believe the entire issue of learning challenges needs to be seriously challenged.
We trust you were blessed by today's presentation. For more helpful information to guide you in your home education journey, please visit educationunlimited.ca and leogaumont.com. Be sure to like us and share us on Facebook.